Good afternoon, everyone. I am Emily Bull, DRI's Marketing Manager, and I will be moderating today's Cloud ERP Frequently Asked Questions webinar. Before I introduce our presenter, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. All of our attendees are muted as you enter this session. Today's presentation will be about 45 minutes. Time permitting, we will open the floor for a live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you would like to ask a question, please do so by typing and submitting it in the question tab of your webinar toolbar. You are welcome to submit a question at any time throughout the session. If for some reason we don't have time to get to your question after the presentation, we will follow up with you directly via email after the presentation. We'll also be recording this webinar, and that recording will be emailed to everyone following the live presentation. Before we get into the session, I did want to make everyone aware of our next upcoming webinar. 2 weeks from today, on Thursday, May 27th, DRI will present a live demonstration of Cloud Suite Industrial version 10. During that session, we'll demonstrate all the newest features and functionality, including the personalized user interface, Burst BI, Infor.OS highlights, and so much more. So if you're running on a later version of Sightline, you'll definitely want to check this session out. You can register for that demo on our website at decision.com/events. Welcome everyone to today's Cloud ERP Frequently Asked Questions webinar. I am pleased to introduce our presenter today. John Haddix is the Vice President of Professional Services at DRI. As Vice President of Professional Services, John is responsible for ensuring that our customers receive the advice and resources they need to meet business system goals and to create long-term strategies that maximize their investment in those systems. Since joining DRI in 1999 as a business consultant, John has served in management capacities leading DRI's consulting, technical, and development teams. John oversees all customer engagements, ensuring that DRI's professional services staff provides clients with practical solutions that meet their goals and objectives. John holds an MBA and Master of Science in Information Systems Management from Duquesne University and an undergraduate degree in Supply Chain Management. John is certified in several Infor products, including Cloud Suite Industrial ERP, and holds the PMP credential from the Project Management Institute. With that, John, I'll throw it off to you. You can get into some of these frequently asked questions we hear about the cloud.
Emily, thank you for that introduction. And as I scanned some of the attendees that have joined the webinar right on time, I recognize many of you out there. So thank you for spending this time with me this next hour or so to talk about Infor and their cloud ERP offerings, and really a lot of the questions that we hear as your implementation services provider, your trusted advisor, and those types of things. We like to do these meetings and share information, best practices, give you an idea of what cloud computing is, what Infor's offerings are, and some of the benefits, some of the challenges, some of the considerations, and those types of things. So that's about what we'll spend the next hour doing. Let me progress here in the next slide. Most of you know DRI. We've been Infor's largest partner for a number of years and was recognized again as Infor's Partner of the Year in calendar year 2020. We've been the Cloud Partner of the Year, and as we've worked with many of you, you've come to know us as a services organization, as a sales organization, and we're focused on providing results, no surprises. One of the biggest things I hear is, from our customers, oh, cloud this, cloud that. What is the cloud? Why is it important? Why should we consider it? And, funny little cartoon here and all of that good stuff. But Infor's cloud, its offering is really designed to allow you to focus on what your business does best, whether that's manufacturing products, distributing products, engineering, doing the things that really generate value for your stakeholders, and letting Infor take the ever increasingly complex technical responsibility of managing systems and databases and security and things along those aspects of the IT ecosystem. So we're going to talk more about each of those as we go through it. But as a way of introduction, Infor is one of the largest cloud providers in the business systems space. They have over 71 million cloud users and 15,000 companies that subscribe to different Infor cloud solutions. Just this month, Cloud Wars published a finding that Infor had surpassed both Microsoft and IBM in their cloud-based, industry-based revenue. So their ERP business systems specifically. The Infor Cloud is built on the AWS platform. AWS is one of the titans in cloud computing. AWS is known for being reliable, not having security issues. Many of those are in the news now with the pipeline, right? And having high availability and disaster recovery. And you can sort of see the difference in size and scalability of AWS, Microsoft, and Google. Infor aligned with AWS, and they are AWS's largest business systems cloud partner. So they're very close with the team at AWS and at Amazon, and that's a very strong and important relationship. As you think about the Infor Cloud, one of the things I'd like you to really keep this perspective of, in the old days, when many of you bought from DRI and you were evaluating ERP systems, you were buying a software package. You owned it, you bought the hardware, you set up the local infrastructure, you'd license Microsoft SQL, and that's sort of the sphere of what you considered. In the Cloud Suite world, you certainly own your data, but Infor is really providing a much larger set of services related to security and managing the technical infrastructure, managing database performance, providing updates. We'll talk more about that as we go. But this slide does a particularly good job of really showing what the differences are in terms of ownership. And instead of making a large capital purchase, you're paying as a subscription on a subscription basis when you subscribe to the Infor Cloud. Security were things that you had to worry about, and intrusion and that type of thing. And I'm going to talk more about Infor security a little bit later. And then also just with integrations and implementation work, connecting different applications together just 5-10 years ago was often a one-off that you did. In the Infor world, the configurator, connections to Infor CRM, connections to a product, their BI product called Burst, EAM, Infor expense management are all parts of pre-certified Cloud Suite integrations that Infor has across different cloud suites. Our product, of course, is called Cloud Suite Industrial, which is powered by Sightline, the ERP engine. There are many reasons why people adopt the cloud and choose to move to the cloud. These are the top 5. Infor polled a couple hundred of their customers, and this was the feedback that they got. Why was the cloud important? Why did you make an investment in the cloud? And those types of things. And I'm going to touch upon each of these in just a high-level fashion. Innovation is one of the big things that people said they get out of it, and this is something that we see as well. Infor, on a monthly basis and a couple times a year, provides new features and updates. So twice a year, the Infor update cycle provides large net new functionality deliveries. And on a monthly basis, they're providing some single fixes, some bug fixes. They're providing maintenance packs through Microsoft updates or SQL updates or other things related to the infrastructure. But that innovation allows Infor to deliver that net new functionality in a way that, they're managing it. They're applying the updates. They're applying all of the project management involved, coordinating across their different teams, where you used to have to do that. When you used to download, version 9 and then 9.020 and 9.030, it was an entirely different thing. And you usually waited, I don't know, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, in some cases, much longer intervals to get access to things that Infor has added to the application. And over the years, Infor has added thousands and thousands of new features and functions to keep the product competitive and to do what's necessary to keep Cloud Suite Industrial Sightline focused as an industry-specific package. Security and compliance is another really important thing when considering why to adopt the cloud solution. Infor has hundreds of personnel devoted toward keeping your system safe and secure. They're working 24/7, and they can do much more, frankly, than most small and medium-sized businesses can do on their own in terms of keeping your system secure. And we'll talk more about that and Infor's security protocols and approaches and tools and techniques here in just another couple of minutes. Performance and scalability. Over the years, I have any number of customers, when they've gone through an acquisition and brought on a new business or decided to open up new locations, have struggles with, how do you do that? Do you get additional hardware? Do you have to make investments in, additional servers, different capacity, increased RAM, and those types of things? That's not something you worry about in the Infor Cloud. That's something that Infor worries about. You can add another site, you can add another business location, whether it's here domestically or internationally. Infor's taking care of the scalability. You're just adding users and they're taking care of the rest. So we'll talk more about some of the tools that they use and some of their approaches as well. The last couple of things are also important. The user interface. Infor spent a lot of resources across their suites of applications, making sure that the user interface and the user experience has been much better than what it used to be. So their size and breadth across all of the cloud suites allows them to define a common look and feel across their applications and a common approach. And you see that through the way the cloud suites are built under the Infor operating services, using mingle home pages and using some of the other components of it to provide data and to drive a common, more modern and fresh way for a user to access their systems, to make decisions, and to be working with your valuable business data. Total cost of ownership is very important too. We'll look at this in more detail, but even just a couple of years ago, Infor was not really doing anything to incent customers who'd been running on-prem to consider the cloud. It was very attractive for those that were buying into the Infor community and buying Sightline, Cloud Suite Industrial for the first time. And they've really changed an approach here in the last year or two to really make it a much more attractive thing for you to keep with the Infor Cloud Suite Sightline suite of products moving up to the cloud. So I mentioned that we're going to talk a little bit more about cloud security, and that's what I want to do next. So you can expect Infor to really do the job of monitoring the applications for security and performance. They have significant protocols all the way back to the physical security and the way Infor employees access their physical locations, their data centers. They have network security protocols, application security. Just the way the applications are designed and written is very important. And of course, the common policies and procedures. They call this a defense in depth strategy with multiple layers of security that overlap each other. Again, so they have a significant component of their business. In fact, write this down. I'd like you to go to trust.infor.com to read more about this. it's a terrific site where they've built that details all of the protocols and um, the different standards that they adhere to and a lot of their policies and procedures. Security is very important. Again, I highlight that because it's in the news, especially this week here on the East Coast. The importance of those things, and you don't hear of an Amazon-based or Infor-based security issue. So just expanding upon what you do on-prem versus what Infor does in the SaaS world is another important thing that I hear a lot. So I wanted to make sure that we answered that for you as well. When you're on-prem, managing the application and your database, and then the components of the operating system and Taskman and Sightlines, components that make up the actual application itself, maintaining your servers, making sure that they don't fail, that the power and backups are going, that you don't lose connectivity because a switch blows or something like that, are all very important things that you need to do when you're on-prem. Infor will keep track of everything you're seeing there on the right-hand side in green. You still own your data. Infor isn't in your data. You own your data. And so that's the important component and why that one isn't green on the right-hand side. But Infor running quality assurance software is something that they do. They use a tool called Infor Testing as a Service, and that's a pretty interesting thing. As they introduce new features or as a monthly update is put out, they have different models built in their TAS, Testing as a Service software, that run different regressions in different use cases in different scenarios to ensure that the operating system changes, things that maybe Microsoft has done, things that companies that write browsers do, Chrome, those types of things, are all being validated before they hit you. So the automated quality assurance testing, the service health monitoring, the different application level things, and the user experience itself are both being monitored. So
Hey,
Infor has
John,
yes.
I hate to interrupt. Your audio, it cut in and out 2 or 3 times there. I don't know what might be causing that, but if you could just make sure maybe you're plugged in and everything. We lost you 2 or 3 times.
Oh no, I apologize for that. Um, Everything should be just the way it normally is, Emily. There's nothing that's changed in the
Okay.
configuration. Is there anything you need me to go back and hit?
No, I mean, it seems to have just cut out 2 or 3 times there while you were chatting. It was fine up to that point. So just keep going. And
Okay.
if we lose you again, I'll let you know.
So the application and health monitoring aspects of what Infor does is very important. So they're monitoring user performance, and is a user able to navigate through the applications well? Are things slowing down? They're monitoring things at the middleware level to make sure that the IDOs are performing well, and at the infrastructure level. And again, of course, as I've mentioned, they're taking care of the patching and operating system maintenance, release management as monthly releases go through as well. I get a lot of questions about certain aspects of how to take these concepts and apply it to a customer's business. And sort of put some slides together to just give you an idea of what those are. We've called them the common misconceptions. So this is sort of an overview of things that we commonly hear, questions we commonly get from our customers. And the first is, hey, I've got a ton of customizations and modifications to my systems that we've made, and boy, in the cloud, I can't make them. Yeah, that's not true. We can take you to the cloud. We'll talk more about some of the details of how things are accomplished, but all the development tasks that you've done on-prem, there are similar things and similar ways that you can accomplish those in the Infor cloud. So we'll talk more about that, but don't let the fact that you've got some customization, whether it be a little or a lot, think that that's a big hurdle for you to get to the cloud. Anytime we talk about customizations, anytime we talk about moving to the cloud, we're going to do it in the context of, hey, how can we knock those customizations out? And we'll take a fresh look, and we won't just assume that everything you have is something that we want to bring forward. We're going to try and look, is there standard functionality? Is there a different approach you can do so that will mitigate the need to have any of those customizations? And it's just many times you're going to say, oh, hey, Brad requested that 5 years ago, and he hasn't run that report in the last 2 years. It's probably not necessary. Let's get with him, or take an approach of, if he hasn't run it the last 2 years, we don't need to bring it forward. So it's a great time to consider, how can we get back to standard functionality? The second misconception is, hey, I'm going to have to rebuy the software. And when I'm on-prem, I pay a maintenance amount. I know what that is. That's not the case. So if you're on a relatively recent release and you've kept up on maintenance, Infor's got a program, and the DRI sales team can work with you to develop a total cost of ownership that's very likely going to show you that it is economically feasible and economically advantageous to move to the cloud. Certainly keep this in mind. There is a mix of products that you buy a la carte when you're on-prem. That's part of the cloud bundle. We're going to look at that in just a minute, because it's so important thinking about the Infor cloud. Infor did a great job of bundling a lot of the commonly used products and adding some additional value add in things like Infor OS and Burst into the cloud. That, I think you'll find, it's a very good total cost of ownership model. So, with the whole notion of development and that type of thing, I've heard questions from customers over time that really paint the picture of, well, when I'm in the cloud, I'm just not going to have the same flexibility to do things like add fields and create reports and change forms or link forms together and do those types of things. And although there's some different approaches to how you would do some Mongoose work, all those tools are greatly enhanced from legacy versions. So you can still add your UETs, add custom tables, add custom forms, create reports as you need. And we usually provide that type of training in each cloud project that we have to train your team on what's new. I also hear, oh, in the cloud, because it's an Infor product and it's on Amazon, I can't integrate to third-party products, and that couldn't be further from the truth. You absolutely can. Infor has tools like Ion. They have the full web services that you have in your legacy versions as well. DRI has a Decision 365 platform where we do a lot of commerce and EDI integrations, and there's many other technologies. So the Infor cloud does allow you to pass data in, it allows you to pull data out, so you can integrate to other third-party products as needed. Maybe the last misconception that I'll touch on here this afternoon is, hey, you've talked about these monthly releases, and does that mean I'm upgrading each month? No, it really doesn't. Infor does publish those monthly releases, but they're non-invasive. Only twice a year do they do. It's an industry term. It's called a destructive release, and a destructive release, again, an IT term, just means that they've changed, core functionality. So they do that, and they publish what they're going to be doing in advance. And anytime Infor writes net new features, they're handled through, I think it was a version 10 capability, maybe the last version of 9, through a tool set and a functionality area called new feature management. So if Infor was writing something net new into the application, you'll be able to take it into a TRN area, so a piloting area, turn it on, test it, see if you like it, and when you're ready, you'll be able to set that flag and turn it on for your live or production environment. When Infor does the monthly releases, there is a small thing that you need to do to just form sync if they've made a change to resolve a bug or to do something else with a form. That'll be noted in the form sync process. So Infor does those updates the third Friday night to Saturday morning on a monthly basis. Usually takes about 2 hours. Sometimes that can go a little bit longer, but in general, about midnight Eastern, the system goes offline for that brief period of time. Then they pop back up and you're online there on Saturday morning. So I mentioned the bundle and the value that Infor put into it. And so I like to give you that perspective as well, because you're not just thinking, or you don't need to just think about the Infor cloud being the exact same functional footprint you had on-prem. When you subscribe to the Infor cloud, you're getting service management, which is an a la carte thing that you would buy on-prem, credit card, tax interface, all things. Advanced planning and scheduling, the finite capacity-driven capability. All of the quality modules are all part of the base bundle. Again, if you're on-prem, you still license those a la carte, but you can take advantage of this. This allows you, with that same investment, to expand and do a whole lot more. If you don't have a field service component to your business, service management also gives you the preventive maintenance capabilities. So there are plenty of things you can take advantage at even a lower, fine, more resolute level than what you see here. And again, when we put the total cost of ownership together, you're paying maintenance on all of those products if you own these on-prem, and that makes it a better TCO model when you look at the cloud bundle. As part of the Cloud Suite Industrial Bundle, you not only get Sightline ERP, you also get Infor OS and some products that are bundled under Infor OS. So you get Infor Document Management. This is a replacement for the legacy product of DocTrack. It works right within the Infor operating services system and is tightly integrated with Sightline ERP. You get Mingle home pages. You get Ion and a couple other important tools as well. You get Burst for Cloud Suites, and I'm going to show you some slides on a couple of these other really important things like Burst and the implementation accelerators. Burst is Infor's BI platform. You get the implementation accelerators, which we'll talk more about as well. And you have access to Coleman AI, which is based on Amazon's Lex platform. So you're going to start to see in the next year or two a lot of movement within Infor to bring artificial intelligence predictive capabilities to Cloud Suite Industrial through Coleman AI. That's Infor's branded name of their AI platform. There are some products you can still license as add-ons. That includes Factory Track. So the ability to do material movement transactions, purchase order receiving, inventory transactions, issuing material to the shop floor. A lot of the material transactions used to be part of Sightline data collection, is part of Factory Track warehouse mobility. Factory Track shop floor and Time Track deal more with labor transactions, clocking in and out of jobs, doing different crewing transactions, completing jobs, and that type of thing, all part of the Factory Track bundle. The configurator and CPQ are still something you license discreetly, as well as Sightline, forecasting, and different industry packs, Infor Campus, and the portals are all things that we see with a very high attachment rate in our product suite. Emily, how am I doing with hearing me? Have you had any other issues where audio's dropped?
No, you're doing great. I think it may have been an issue on my end, John. Apologies.
Yeah, okay. So I'd love to show Burst. One of the great things about Infor Cloud Suite is that they've bundled a world-class business intelligence product. With your subscription, Infor will be delivering burst content in a couple of key areas. The final beta release of financial reporting and sales analysis dashboards is happening now, and they're going to continue to roll that out through other areas of the application. But the BI tool set in Burst gives you access to tremendously detailed and valuable dashboards, help you identify trends. It's a true business intelligence product. Each of these, you can drill through, they're multi-dimensional, you can change the dimensions, and you have the ability to report against your Cloud Suite industrial sightline data. Show you a couple other really neat capabilities. I love the heat map that you're seeing here. So if you're looking for sales in a different region, you're looking for different service attributes, that type of thing, you can build these dashboards and workbenches and attach it to a geo map. And again, click and slice and dice. You'll see more of this in the webinar we have later in the month. I think it's 2 weeks from today, as Emily mentioned, and see Burst in action. But I wanted to give you an idea because that's a major component that, frankly, boy, I bet you the vast majority of you on the call don't have an on-prem BI solution from Infor. This is bundled. This is part of the Cloud Suite Industrial solution footprint. Infor leverages the Amazon data lake, and so Cloud Suite Industrial passes data into the data lake, and then Burst is a consumer of that data from the data lake and provides this data. Data in the data lake is stored much faster, better, easier retrieval, and that type of thing. Sort of a hidden gem of the Cloud Suite bundle are what Infor calls their implementation accelerators. These are predefined business processes and the documentation sort of associated to them. They're great for helping roll out new functionality much more rapidly than you could before. They're great for training new employees. They're great for quote unquote borrowing for documentation and business process purposes. But these provide level 1, level 2, level 3, and so forth, business process definitions. So you can look at these end-to-end business processes. Quote to cash, procure to pay, service to cash are very common. Demand to build, plan to inventory, design to release, and drill through these. These give you functionality overviews. They describe key capabilities. They provide terminology definitions as you click through some of the screens for these. And again, show you process diagrams and give you process definitions. It's tremendously valuable. If you're implementing net new, which many of you wouldn't be on this call, we use these as a way to really train up new customers learning Sightline for the first time. So part of your Cloud Suite Industrial Bundle gives you access to these implementation accelerators for Sightline. And if you license products that have IAs built like Factory Track, you'll have access to those as well. I want to give you an idea of what it takes to get to the cloud. And so this next little bit, we'll talk about developing a business case, doing the economic analysis, and then the actual steps involved in moving to the cloud. So we'd love to partner with you. This is sort of DRI's role to really talk to you about how you're using the applications, talk to you about what your business's goals and objectives are, so that we can align those and help you develop a strategy to determine if moving to the cloud makes sense. Again, some of these bullet points are a bit redundant, but we're going to look at the benefits you'd get from having access to new functionality sooner than you would, so that you don't go a couple of years and get sort of stale. And as Infor is putting new functionality out, you'll have that available to you. reduction in your costs of maintaining security, and the benefits you get from having scalability as you add components to your business. Or if you decide to implement a product like the configurator or Infor CRM, you're not going out and buying additional hardware, or you're not going out and spinning up additional virtual machines, that type of thing. Infor's handling all of that for you. So we like to help you with the business case. DRI's team is particularly well equipped to help you do that. So don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Jason Snar, John Titus, any of the consultants that you work with, or any member of DRI management. We can sort of start those discussions with you in the right way. And as we do that, we're going to look at the economic justification and put together that business case. And we'd love to develop sort of this total cost of ownership model with you that looks at your hardware costs, cost of doing things on-prem, costs for disaster recovery, and mitigating risk, and those types of things are all things that are just costs that people aren't necessarily aware of, but that the business incurs when you're on-prem. We'll model those, put in the cost of a SaaS subscription, any additional licenses that you may want to buy, those types of things, and then the costs to move you from on-prem into the cloud. You hear it a lot. You hear, hey, when you move to 10 and when you move to the cloud, that's the last traditional upgrade project you're going to do. There's a lot of truth to that. When you're on the Infor cloud, the updates come in a planned fashion, so you won't fall behind. But we're going to help you properly budget and structure a project to do the right amount of project planning, train you in the new tool sets, train you in the Burst tool set, train you in the Infor operating services tool sets, train you in the new capabilities of Sightline up to version 10. And then we will, of course, budget moving your database. So doing the actual upgrade to it. We have moved companies that are running character-based SIMIX through the upgrade process to version 10. So we have a series of staging servers on our, in our own private cloud that have the different versions of Sightline. We'll take a backup of your system, move it through the right series of steps to get it to version 10. We'll do some things to clean the database of any custom objects, any custom development. We'll scan it from a security perspective and that type of thing in conjunction with Infor. And then we provide your pristine version 10 database to Infor's cloud operations team. They'll attach it to your provisioned environment, and you're going to have your data in the Infor cloud. There's some minor little details that come along with that. If you're multi-site, the Infor cloud is using the newer design of having a single database. And of course, for the vast majority of you, multi-site has always been something you could choose to do as a multi-database configuration on-prem. That's one thing that changes, and we do that. We consolidate the sites into one database as part of the services that we put in. I got some questions about, hey, well, what's not allowed and what is allowed, and so I wanted to touch upon those two. You won't be able to supply Infor because you won't have access to SQL Server. You won't be able to have any of your custom stored procedures, triggers, or any custom views that you have. DocTrack and ShopTrack are no longer part of the Infor product suite. Infor's got replacement and frankly better products through IDM and FactoryTrack and others. So those components, if you've got DocTrack as an example, we need to go in and strip DocTrack out of your database. We need to go in and take out your custom objects. You can, if you use XGens, if you use UETs or those type of things, custom tables. There's some things that we do to format them so that Infor can recognize that this is a a specific customer's custom table. They've got some conventions that we adhere to, those types of things that we need to consider as you move to the cloud. That's all part of what DRI does for you. A move to the Infor cloud is a relatively quick thing. Now, that needs to be just taken from the context of what version are you coming from? If you're from an older version, there's going to be more to learn. When you look at a screen of Sightline version 8 to a form of Sightline version 10, Infor's done a lot over the years to optimize the user interface. You're not going to as many tabs. A lot of the important fields are now on the front tab or the front screen or form, so that the user isn't clicking as much. I say that in full recognition that that's an ongoing process. Of course, you're click happy, even your most streamlined processes, someone's going to say, oh, I wish I could, do that in a couple of fewer screens. And they're continuing to invest in the application along that way. In fact, when you get a chance, and if you can, come to that next webinar, you're going to see in the last 2 years, Infor has updated all of the forms in Sightline to a new user interface. So those are called the web dot forms, and you'll see that. They still have the classic version. So if you're running version 9 and you move to 10, the classic version of the forms will be very familiar to you. But if you choose to adopt the new web forms, that user interface is going to really hum for you. So there's a little bit of retraining there. But a version 9 to the cloud project can be done in a straightforward case in just about 4 months, and in version 8, 6 months. And of course, if you are a company that has many sites and a lot of complexity, we size this the right way. But boy, we did a project that started in May last year that brought a customer from running a version 9 live in late October, early November, and they had 26 sites, and about 11 of those were operational sites. So a lot of the size and breadth and complexity of an implementation, comes from maybe how you're using the application, not just what version you're on, and we recognize that. But this is a good window and a good perspective of what an implementation window should look like. Boy, so I've cruised through. It's about 3:42 here. Here's my contact information, and just another reminder of the May 27th webinar. Emily, let's shift now to the Q&A portion. Did anyone ask questions? If not, we can throw it open.
Yep. So I will open the floor for questions now. We did get a couple of questions, but before we jump into those, I just want to remind everyone that you can submit a question using the webinar toolbar. There's a little tab that says questions, and you can type and submit them there. We'll start, John, with our first question from Stan, who wants to know, can we move customizations in our on-prem deployment over to the cloud?
So you can. So we have to technically strip those customizations out and reapply them. So depending on the customizations, for example, if you did a stored procedure, those type of things just behave differently in the Infor cloud. You would write a .NET assembly for those, but if you're making form presentation layer changes and that type of thing, you just reapply those once your database is in the Infor cloud.
Excellent. Our next question comes from Dave, who asks, does DRI have experience moving customers to the cloud?
We do. At any given time, we have between a half dozen and 10 projects going to move companies on-prem to the cloud. Just to give you another idea, it's not an exact answer to this, but probably 9 out of 10 implementations of companies that are buying into Sightline as what we call a net new. So they're coming from a legacy product, an on-prem product, or Epicor or something like that to Sightline. Those are all cloud products projects as well. So on-prem is still very much supported, and it's going to be there for you as well. But the cloud, is the now. It's not even the future. It's really the now. So yeah, we have plenty of experience. As I mentioned, we've brought a company here in the last year from Cymix through all of the steps, and they've got their data in the cloud. Version 7, 8, and 9 are things that we regularly do.
And in 2020, I believe DRI was named the No Customer Left Behind Partner of the Year at Infor. I think that was 2020. So we were named that for the volume of customers that we have moved to the cloud, because we, I believe, have the most that have moved to
Yeah.
the cloud. So
So
of all
not
the
only
partners, we have
the
the
biggest
most
customer base,
experience.
yeah, not only do we have the biggest customer base, so we have a great opportunity to do that. We've been doing cloud implementations at DRI for about the last 5 years. So the cloud isn't new to us. The move to the cloud has picked up steam as Infor has made it attractive from a cost perspective, and as people have come to recognize the benefits of cloud computing. They're sort of coming to us saying, hey, the cloud looks like something we should be exploring. We're a cloud company now. It can be that simple.
Excellent. Excuse me. I will move on to our next question from Jim, who asks, do you have direct access to your data?
So the way that I would answer that is you certainly have access to your data, and there's a number of ways that you have access to it. You don't have direct access through SQL, and maybe, Jim, that's where you're coming from. That's sort of the way I would ask the question. So if that's not, please just ask a clarifying question. You don't have access to SQL directly, but you have access to Sightline's APIs. You have access to your data through the user interface, through the workbench and data views tools, and you have access to your data through the technologies involved in the data lake and through Burst. So there are many ways to get to your data and that type of thing.
Yeah, and Jim
Website.
had I'm sorry. Jim did expand a little bit on his question. I think that one is worth a follow-up, Jim. So we'll have Jason connect with you after the session to give you the specific answers that you need. I will follow that with our next question. Give me one moment. Okay, so this one is from Brent, and it says, one of the slides said, I don't know what this is, EXTGEN, XGens are acceptable. Are we able to run our own XGens in the cloud without SQL access?
So there are approaches that we can do with that. Let's do that as a follow-up as well.
Okay.
The XGen, that bullet point from the XGen does need more explanation than I'm going to be able to give you personally, but we'll have Sharon follow up with you on it.
Okay, excellent. Sorry, I didn't know what that was. I'm not a technical person.
Yep.
So
it's a programmatic approach to the way that you did development that doesn't
gotcha.
let you tickle source code, but
Well,
gets
I
it.
learned something new.
You did.
So our next question comes from Doug, who asks, how easy is it to get pilot databases created and refreshed in the cloud? So he's saying copies of live production database pilots.
Okay, so Infor allows you, so as an Infor Cloud customer, you get 3 different environments. You get a PRD, which is your production database, and a TRN, which is your pilot database or training database. And then you get your fantastically functional bicycle demo database that you've known and loved for years. You do have the ability to ask for a refresh from PRD to TRN on a periodic basis. And to do that, there's a way that you do that through a support incident today. In the future, through Infor Concierge, that will be a web walk-up thing that you do. They're prototyping it now. And you just log into Infor Concierge, make that request. There's some scheduling considerations to they can't have everybody do it on the exact same time frame. But that automates via some scripts and things like that to kick off that process when you need it. Which reminds me, each of you, I should include this as well because I often put this, out to our customers. Each of you that has access to Infor Concierge and Infor Support, there's a subscription services guide that you can download that provides tremendous detail on Infor service levels and answers questions like how do you copy a live to pilot, PRD to TRN, those types of things. All tremendously well documented in some of the Infor materials on support.
Alrighty. Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, sorry about that. We do have 2 more questions right now. Again, we have a couple minutes left. If anyone else has a question, feel free to submit your question now. I will move on to the next question from Aaron, who asks, can a customer running older versions move to the cloud?
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned, we have customers that are running systems they implemented in the 1980s and early 1990s move to the cloud. We have a series of staging servers that have all of the interim versions predefined for you. So we take your database, take it on our staging servers, and then perform the upgrade processes so that you don't have to do that, or you don't have to have the hardware. Back in the on-prem days, you had to have hardware as you were moving from Cymix to Sightline and Sightline 3 to Sightline 7, have those staging servers. We do all of that now in the DRI private cloud for you. So, yep, you can do that whether you're running Cymix or a progress version of Sightline, Sightline version 7, version 8, version 9. Those are common.
Alrighty. Our next question is from Brent, who asks, if you run into an issue during production, do they apply patches to resolve the issue, or do you have to wait for the next uplift?
That is a tremendous question, and it's a rather straightforward answer. And this comes from the implementer's perspective. It may not be exactly the way Infor would want to hear things. But in general, when you notice something that needs to be fixed, that same login incident with support process is what you go through. And when they identify a defect, they're going to put it to their development teams, go through the normal process, write an APAR, if you're familiar with that term, and then make it available in the next eligible monthly release cycle. So there are times, they're rather infrequent, when you need something sooner than that monthly cycle. Infor will be responsive. They will listen to you. Sometimes DRI needs to lean on them a bit. This is the part Infor might not love me saying to you, but you're my customers and this is the way we advise you. We can act in your behalf, or you can challenge support and they can provide what they call a hot fix, which means they'll do something on the fly for you. If 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, and it sure as heck needs to equal 2 in whatever business process, they're not going to make you deal with that, until the next monthly maintenance cycle. They'll be able to deploy a hot fix in this very, very important cases.
All righty. Well, that actually appears to be all of our questions, so we're going to wrap up a couple minutes early here. If you do have follow-up questions, you can feel free to email John directly, or you can email info@decision.com. I will also be following up with everyone likely tomorrow morning with a copy of the recording of this session. So of course you can reply to that email if you have any questions. There were a couple of questions we weren't able to answer in this session. We will be following up with you folks directly. Again, a reminder that our next session is 2 weeks from today, and we'll be demonstrating Cloud Suite Industrial version 10. We hope that you all can make it to that session. We appreciate your time today. Thank you, John. Thank you to all of our attendees. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you all at the next session.
Appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.